So this is a media information sources and information languages. So we're able to discuss the source of information. Paano ba tayo mag-gather ng, 'di ba kung nakakaraan is more on ano tayo, information literacy. But now we are on the sources. Especially kapag kumukuha tayo ng mga credible facts and information. Nalalaman natin ngayon kung gaano ba katotoo yung mga information. At the same time, sabi ko nga last time, 'di ba, kailangan natin mag-compare din sa mga newspapers, sa mga media on digital platforms natin para malaman natin ngayon kung tayo ba ay nakukuha ba natin from Google, nakukuha ba natin lahat ay nagtutugma sila sa isa't isa. So media needs information to create messages. Kaya nga tayo, 'di ba, nakakasagap ng mga information mula sa internet or mula sa lahat ng platform is because of media. Kumbaga, lahat ng nangyayari, it's translated into messages, translated into text. Kumbaga, nababanggit ito, nababalita. At the same time, nakikita natin ngayon, ano yung mga nangyayari. This is what they distribute their chosen channels to receive feedback from their desired audience. Ngayon kasi, noon, nung wala pang social media, madalas ang naano natin is TV, radyo, television. Yan yung mostly yung distribution ng mga information. But now we have the social media. Kahit yung TV nalipat na sa, alam mo yun, yung TV meron na rin sa social media. For example, yung mga primetime shows natin, na primetime news sa gabi, naka-live na rin sa YouTube, sa Facebook. Kasi para makita natin kung wala tayo sa bahay natin, kung nasa workplace man tayo or nasa biyahe tayo, so nakakapagsasagap tayo ng information. Yung target audience ngayon ng media natin is not just on the TV itself, on the radio and the newspaper ng mga fanatics, but also tayong mga netizens, 'di ba? Lahat na sa buong mundo, hindi lang tayo sa Pilipinas na ang nakikita, pati sa buong mundo dahil nga may social media tayo. And different time zones, for example, dito 6:30 na umaga, kung nasa US ka, mapapanood mo siya ng umaga roon. Kumbaga, hindi na lang to parang within the area of location, but at the same time, widespread na yung location niya. Okay? Knowing where get accurate information is vital in preserving the media's reputation. Of course, pagka nagbagkas tayo ng impormasyon, at the same time, ito ay makatotohanan, ito ay accurate, of course, meron niyang tinatawag na credibility ng isang reporter, ng isang manunulat. Kasi syempre, sinasabi niya, ito yung mga nilalahad dito ay totoo. Diba? Walang halong kasinungalingan. Syempre, kapag fake news, diba? Usually naman pag fake news, ang mga tao hindi magsasabi na totoo yan. But these people, they saying their credible information, they are very accountable. And of course, kapag alam nila na mali yung information, they will be liable for that. Okay? This will be introduced to various sources of information, how the messages are made through codes and convention, and discuss receiving end messages, which are the audience. So, sino pa ba ang audience? So, lahat po tayo. Of course, we have to identify the various sources of information. We'll be discussing the types of sources of information. Let's define codes and conventions. Decipher what messages mean through codes and conventions, and differentiate audience from producers and stakeholders. Okay, let's go to the sources of information. The previous modules discussed the various sources where you get information distinct qualities. Last time, pinag-usapan natin ang mga newspapers, periodicals, yung mga scholarly books, yung mga paano ba tayo makakapag-gather ng information, paano ba natin makukuha yon accurately, di ba, sa even the digital platform. Ngayon, meron kasi siyang sources. These are qualifies in the sources of information. So, there are 4. So, number 1 is a primary source. Ito yung pinakauna natin at essential. No? Kung ngayong pandemic, sinasabi nating word na essential, primary source ang pinaka-essential. Okay? These are sources from original manuscript, documents, or records that are used in preparing or publish or non-published work. Usually, lahat po ito ay first on hand at the same time publish, karamihan. This type of sources includes autobiographies. So, pinag-discuss na natin to noong mga nasa high school pa tayo, as well as yung EAPP class, autobiographies, yung mga taong yung pinag-uusapan, yung mga tao beyond the history. Case studies, when you say case studies, pinag-uusapan the certain person or the certain culture. Kung gusto nyo makaano ng case studies, may mga sa mga humanities. Yan, yung mga research papers ng mga humanities. Maraming case study kasi pinag-uusapan the certain person. Correspondence, more on documentation din yan. Diaries, personal papers. At usually mga personal, yung mga sinusulat ng isang tao. For example, sinulat na itong author na to, yung mga diary niya, mga nangyayari sa buhay niya, it can be the primary source because kung siya ang case study natin, therefore, it can be used as diary what's happening to him or her. Dissertation or thesis. This is a thesis paper wherein you can lahat ng mga previous research paper that has published or unpublished, kung sa school lang na siya na-publish or ay publish yan, whether local or international. Films, mga pelikula, first person account. So, first person, which is yung kung sino yung tao involved. Historical documents, laboratory data, minutes of meeting. Minutes of meeting, hindi to pinapublish kung kani-kanino. Of course, sa company lang ito or for example, sa school na pinag-usapan sa meeting. O kung sa government, syempre, there are certainties of confidentiality. Original manuscript documents, original research, photographs, religious documents, speeches. Yan, speeches, marami rin yan. Hindi actually marami na rin sa internet, 'di ba? Marami na rin sa kumbaga makakuha kayo ng mga wordings that you can be used as your quotation or phrases in your statements. Technical reports and work on literature. Usually lahat ito makukuha nyo pwedeng hand-on or digital. Ito kasi ang magiging first first defense ninyo when it comes pagka naglalagay tayo ng information. Though meron kayo research class, 'di ba, gumagawa kayo ng mga objective, significance, and literature studies. So nilalagay niyo yung mga primary source yun. That which is this is very strong recommended when it comes to your objective. Ito dapat nilalagay natin. Okay? Primary source. Kung mayroon ka diyang newspaper, meron ka diyang ang tawag dito yung mga first person, kasi nakikita mo na galing sa kanya yung information. At the same time, based on his or her experience, based on for example, yung mga documents, speech din, first person din yan. Yung mga technical reports, minutes of meeting, or laboratory, mga statistical data. Okay? Next naman natin, so nawala yung secondary natin. Yung secondary, babanggitin ko na lang. Wala dito sa ating, So, ito, secondary. So, wala dyan sa PowerPoint natin. Pakinggan na lang. These are published and unpublished work that heavily rely on the primary source. Kumbaga, ito ay maaring backup or substitution. It can be supporting detail. For example, meron kang primary source na kinuhanan. And then you want to elaborate it. Pero, nandun pa rin yung essence ng information. You will be having your supporting source or secondary source. Okay. These sources are analysis, biography, criticism, or kumbaga it involves people, dissertation also, but the point of literature review. Kumbaga, you get it from the literature of the research paper. Yun yung ating secondary. No? Editors that came from mga editor-in-chiefs natin, writers that in the newspapers. But also, may mga internet and film documentaries. For example, is the case study. If you want to see the case study of this person, you're studying the case study of this person, and you want to subordinate also with another na mas accurate pa, which is the documentary. So, the examples of documentary, which is the eyewitness, which is ang point of the documentary is I, which is the person will be talking about, that will be discussing in the documentaries. Siya yung bida sa isang documentary. Kumbaga, siya yung pinag-uusapan, siya yung pinag-aaralan. So, panoorin ninyo yung mga Cara David's documentary that will pertain to the first person, okay, of documentaries. Next is review literature. The author of this type of source must have genuine interest in the topic he or she has written or an expert in the field. So, kumbaga, may primary ka, may secondary ka. In the sense of, you get some of the sources also. Actually, lahat naman to sources. Lahat na naman natin makukuha. Nasa atin kung paano natin isusupport to lahat. Okay? So, let's proceed to the third one, which is tertiary. It is the third. Kumbaga, layered information, pangatlo. These are works that use our secondary sources as a reference. Kumbaga, ito ay supporting from the second reference. Diba? These are examples are film documentaries. Ayan. This author type must have a genuine interest. Balik tayo sa module. Sabi dito, these are words are secondary source of reference. Some examples of these are the film documentaries. The author of this type of source must have a genuine interest in the topic he she choose to write, or freelance writers and staff who can research on the field who choose to write for. Kumbaga, again, supporting source ulit ito from the secondary. No? Kung gusto mo talagang lahat ng mga sources mo, you have the primary, secondary, and tertiary, at least you have meron ka maide-defend sa inyong paper or maide-defend sa inyong article na bakit ito yung sinabi ninyo, because we have a systematic basis or we call it objective. Kasi lahat ng research paper natin or gumagawa tayo ng mga source of information, it is not pertaining on subjective or based on our opinions, based on our perspective, and this is based on the survey, the sources, diba, or the information that we have, whether physical or digital. Let's go to the gray literature. Ito naman, these are not available for distribution. These are very rare. Big sabihin ng rare, madalang lang sa publication, or at the same time, ito ay nasa certain point of location lang na pwede nating makita. Some examples are conference proceedings. May mga published, may mga unpublished. Kumbaga, or for example, sa mga paid seminar, of course, yung mga transcript or mga module, syempre dahil nga you have paid, you have the access. Limited people lang yung meron. Data exchanges, dissertation thesis. When it comes to dissertations, ang rule kasi sa dissertation or mga thesis, so don't be confused. Sa thesis of dissertation, you have to prove that your study is effective, proven, and defendable. Kumbaga, makakalusot. Diba? It is by yes or no statement. Pasado, hindi. You defend it or not. Pag dissertation, when you say dissertation, it's a kind of thesis that you are, kumbaga, pag sinabi natin dissection sa palaka, diba? Kinukuha natin parts by parts, diba? Kinukuha natin yung puso, yung atay, yung intestine. Ganon din sa dissertation. Ito ay ginagamit sa mga graduate schools and yung mga nagma-masters or nagdo-doctorate. Ito yung tinatawag na sa dissertation, especially nagdo-doctorate kasi hinihimay-himay mo parts by parts yung literature mo, yung studies mo, yung objectives mo, lahat. Compared sa ating mga baby thesis pa lang, we are more familiar in the research. But if you are putting yourself in the thesis or dissertation, you are discussing parts by parts. Okay? Palalim ng palalim. So, there are thesis or dissertation na hindi pwede ilabas sa library. And there are limited persons lang na pwedeng makakawak. It depends on the libraries. Government documents or publication. These are documents and publication na Whether public, medyo merong hindi. Pero mostly sa atin sa Pilipinas, yung mga official documents natin ay naka-upload sa official gazette natin or naka-publish siya sa mga national archives natin dito sa Pilipinas. But more on digital na tayo when it comes to the government documents, yung mga resolution and mga batas, yung mga ano natin whatsoever. Pero may mga iba na hindi pinapala. Syempre, there are serious confidential but that has a request to know with that kasi may data privacy po tayo. Market research reports, yan, online documents, oral presentation, technical reports. Kumbaga ano na lang to, mga in working papers, these are substitution or supporting na lang ito. But of course, the most important pa rin talaga primary, secondary. No? Kasi very strong yung binibigay nating information with that. Authors of these titles must belong to the same field and writing about with a high degree of education. Ngayon, sa pagka-research natin kasi, kailangan kasi when it comes to your topic, you are familiar with the topic. You're in love with the topic. Hindi pwede tinapik mo lang dahil nauuso lang, dahil tinapik mo lang dahil gusto mo lang, or nakikita ng marami. Kaya mo ginawa tong topic because you want change. You want something that will be discovered. That's the purpose of the research. Or in the article, you want to use your voice because of the article or the writings. Of course, we have the basis, and kailangan meron kang mga impormasyon na nilalaman. Hindi para paniwalaan ka rin ng mga tao. Okay? It is whether print or electronic. Okay, let's go to the codes and convention. So, interpreting media is a natural as human beings. Media kasi more on tinatawag natin audio-visual. Of course, we see in the news program, television shows, and commercial, which is advertisement also, that can persuade people. When we turn on the radio, binubuksan natin radyo sa umaga, advertisements, radio programs, and music. When we browse the internet, diba, there are thousands of texts of different sources, articles, website, and all as videos and others. Alam nyo, media convergence na to in the way na kahit saan tayo pumunta, marami tayong paraan para makahagap ng information. Diba? O may radyo, may television, may internet, etc., etc. With the way we fully immerse ourselves in media every day, it's hard not to consider how this mean. So marami tayong pagpipilian. And nasa atin kasi yung comfort kung saan tayo komportable na gumagamit ng anong media platform ba? Social media ba o yung mga traditional medias natin? Go. Different people have different interpretations of media outputs. Tama naman din kasi iba-iba tayo ng channels, iba-iba tayo ng portals. Of course, iba-iba ang approach ng mga tao when it comes to executing their media, executing their program. For example, si ABS-CBN, they are more on entertainment. Of course, they are news na ganito yung paano sila mag-execute. Same as with the GMA, more on the news sila, more on familiar with the news, how they disseminate information with fairness. It kasi entertainment, ano yung execution nila. Pumunta ka ng TV5, pumunta ka ng ibang channel, iba-iba po ang approach when it comes to the media outputs. Okay? That's examples how. Okay. The first step in comprehending the meaning of media is rhetorical analysis. Rhetorical analysis defines the construction and manipulation of language by the creator of a text to effective purposes. Okay? This asks the question, how are media text put together as a media text? Kasi di ba mostly narinig natin or napapakinggan. How it will able to take it by our mother tongue or by a language itself, how it to put it in text, put in the context. Ano ba yung dapat na wordings na dapat sabihin? Of course, we are considering with that, and especially dito sa ating democratic nation. Of course, we are very careful by interpreting our what we are saying to the other people because more people have different kinds of perspective. Codes. When you say codes, it's a set of rules which determine how each element may be used and combined with other elements. This is a system of signs wherein we put together, create meaning. We can recognize a code because we associate with the related meaning. One of the prominent examples of code are languages. No, languages, we have different kinds of languages, dialects, 'di ba? Sabi, each element can be used and combined with other elements. Kung ito ay kahit saan natin ilagay, no? We're going to put it together to create meanings and to be more understandable by the people. Ang lengguwahe kasi ay iba-ibang lengguwahe at maaaring hindi maiintindihan ng ibang tao. But of course, because of language, we are doing our best or doing our ways para ma-translate or for example, yung mga from this nation na iba yung lengguwahe na para mas maintindihan natin ngayon to translate it then and then mai-report dito sa Pilipinas para na alam natin na ito pala nangyayari sa ganitong bansa and because of that language and we understand what's happening there. Okay? Of course, sa ating English kasi English and Filipino we very understandable. But of course, for example, it is Nihongo, yung mga Thailand, mga Cambodian words or Chinese words, for example. Of course, we translate and uses a codes enable to maintindihan natin to associate with that. Okay, when we learn new languages, learn to writing system. So, vocabulary, grammar, lalo sa English, di ba? And habang lumalamin tayo sa English, you're recognizing the words, the letters, the grammar, and the vocabulary. After familiarizing yourselves with English, we're constructing in the coherent sentences to the logical next step, which is letter, word, or sentence a different meaning is made. Maaari kasi may mga ibang mga words natin na ginagamit. So, should be tugma doon sa sentence na ginagamit natin. And of course, may mga words kasi na it can be positive to the people, it can be negative to the people. Okay. There are different kinds of codes that are being used in the media. These are technical codes. So, they are codes to show the techniques that are using for equipment to present the media output. For example, pagdating kasi sa media, lalo na kapag nasa loob ka ng newsroom, of course, there are technical codes na sila lang din makakaintindi. Sa atin, sa field ng IT, di ba, may mga sinasabi natin, modem, network, ganitong terminology, or malalim na terminology na tayo lang nakakaintindi because of our profession or because of our yung mga tinapos natin, yung mga experiences natin. So, tayo nagkakaintindihan. Diba? For example, iyan mo itong 192.168. O pag sinabi mo sa isang business analyst, ano yan, diba? So, technical codes na tinatawag to. Sa media din, may tinatawag tayo na lighting, camera techniques, or meron pa may mga tinatawag, diba? Depth, lighting, exposure. Ito, sa mga photographers, familiar. But when it comes to the media, of course, napakalalim. So, in different kinds of profession, there are technical codes na kayo mismo nagkakaintindihan. But of course, paano ba maiintindihan niya ng iba? Of course, you have to explain it properly. Okay? Especially ngayong nasa digital era tayo ngayon dahil pandemic. Of course, many people nasa baby boomer na generation up to sa mga seniors natin, itong mga technical natin na hindi na to naiintindihan nila dahil syempre because of tayong mga millennials, mga early baby boomers at mga Gen Z is nakakaintindi sa mga ganitong platform and how we able to cope with that, to embrace with that. So we have technical codes. Next is symbolic codes naman. So usually code mga symbols, icons or graphical images na pagka nakita to, ito yung maiintindihan. So ano ba tong mga symbolic codes? It can be objects, mga bagay, settings, or body language. Body language, yung gestures ng katawan natin. For example, hand signals, clothing and color, or sama na natin yung icons. Kumbaga, pagka nakita mo to, we understand. For example, pag nakita natin yung mga road traffic, makita lang natin symbol, alam na natin ngayon, ano yung dapat natin gawin? 'Di ba? Simpleng nakalagay lang doon, yung stop na symbol. Of course, definitely yung stop symbol or no parking symbol, definitely hindi ka dapat mag-park dahil matotow ka or mape-penalize ka. Next, written codes. Written codes more on sulat naman ito in text, context. Some examples, headlines, captions, speech bubbles, and language style. Ito yung pwedeng nakalagay ito, mga memorandum, mga letters and speeches, or protocols, nakasulat lang. Yun, written codes yun, na maaari maintindihan ng lahat. Ito yung isa sa mga mabababaw sa lahat, no? Conventions, so balik tayo. Conventions is said to be genre or specific, or this specific category. Genre came from the French word, so narinig natin yung genre when it comes to the music. Meron tayong OPM, pop, R&B, rock, metallic, mga ganon genre yun. So, may specific category. So, sabi daw, came from the French word, it means type or class. Anong klase? A genre of a particular work is determined through its common distinguishing features. Most genre audiences may expect the particular code appear to the similar ones. So tayong mga nanonood kasi, may mga genre tayo. For example, sa news. Ano ba gusto natin klase sa news? Or public affairs? Or gusto ba natin documentary, hard news, animals, environment, ano pa ba? Games, mga ganon. Or lifestyle, ayan. Yun yung genre doon when it comes to the media. So, social media or political. Okay? Most texts produced by media are made to suit a genre for the audience to easily choose what it is they're particularly interested in. Tayo kasi iba-iba. So, we have different, siyempre, sinasabi nga natin, we have different perspective and different taste. Lahat naman tayo may different taste kung anong gusto natin, kaya nga may genre eh. 'Di ba? Kung ito gusto niyang klaseng panonood, yun ang gusto niyang panoorin. Gusto niya documentary, di panoorin mo siya documentary. Nang gusto natin ng news, gusto natin ng news. Or gusto natin ng lifestyle or mga pampag-advice or talking about animals. Kasi may iba-iba tayong interesting sa atin. Pero syempre, sama ko na rin sa research, higit natin, kapag pumili tayo ng topic, of course, syempre yung class, for example, you're talking about the digital age in the pandemic. Of course, ano ba hinahanap mo? Yung type nito na that pertaining to the media, you're pertaining to the digital era, you're pertaining to the technology. Okay? Para ito, may mga class, para mas maintindihan natin ng maigi kung ano yung mga different kinds of classification. Ito yung mga classification na to. Okay? So, sabi, audience, producers, and stakeholders. Steininger has differentiated audience and stakeholders. Her article entitled Audience and Stakeholders Knowing the Difference is Critical to Reputation Management. So, itong sa Steininger, may pagkakaiba raw ang audience, which is audience yung tao, and the stakeholders. Mukhang pang-business yung tunog, di ba? She said that audiences are the receiver of messages. Usually, tagatanggap lang tayo ng mensahe. Tagatanggap lang tayo ng information. More on passive, di ba? Ano lang tayo, receive lang tayo ng receive. Diba? Audiences were typically meant to just receive messages without returning feedback. Kumbaga, mapapakinggan lang natin at because gusto lang natin malaman. For example, parang lang naman din tong balita. Media releases news is goal for information to be disseminated. Kung nanood ka ng 24 Hours of TV Patrol, ang trabaho mo lang, manood ka lang at pakinggan at namnamin mo yung information. It's not expect to intend to have the audience respond to his messages and participate in discussion, but rather that the audience observe the media only. Kumbaga, hanggang doon lang. Manood ka ng TV, hanggang doon lang. So, you're not expect to give a messages. No? This news will be no interaction with the people. Diba? Kasi nga news lang siya, dire-diretso lang siya. So, on the other hand, stakeholders is a group of individuals who are directly impacted to the decisions and action organization and company. Ngayon, we have received information. At the same time, we are interacting with the information. We are giving feedback, we are giving opinions, ito na yung mga papasok dito yung social media ngayon, 'di ba? Dahil ngayon, hindi na lang tayo passive na magbabasa ka lang, but the same time, may mga comment threads tayo na, o sige, mag-comment ka anong gusto mo sabihin. Because you are, alam mo yun, you are directly impacted to the decisions sa mga mababasa natin, di ba? Or meron tayong mga commentaries. That's the stakeholder is all about. These are groups or individuals are willingly or actively participated in the discussion that resolve around the messages they receive. So may mga show din naman na it involves people that interaction. Usually marami sa radyo, no? Dahil syempre may mga shows at the same time tumatawag ng mga tao at tumatawag din ng mga simpleng tao. Ano ba ang opinion mo? Ano ba gusto mo sabihin? 'Di ba? Kasi kapag balita lang yung unang kanina, yung audience, ano lang, ang objective lang is manood ka lang. Pakinggan mo lang, that's it. But the point of the stakeholders is your actively participated, you are interact with this information that you have involved. So, yung research din natin, we are also stakeholders because you are creating our own research and we are pertaining our feedbacks, we are pertaining our yung mga ano doon, yung mga messages na gusto natin ipahiwatig. Okay, media producers. So, media iba naman yung audience, stakeholders, ngayon producers naman. Yung producers sila yung mga tao na gumagawa naman, di ba? Or the main source of messages. Ang media producers, meron tayong executive producers, segment producers, researchers. So, sila yung kumakatawan, mga segment. Sila yon. Sila yung foundation kung bakit meron tayong KMJS, di ba? So yung mga news and public affairs, 'di ba? Or yung mga news natin, it's because of the researchers, the producers, lahat under. Kaya 'di ba sumisikat because of the anchors. But isipin natin hindi lang yung mga nasa front line but also in the back line. Na sila yung talagang nag-effort para doon na i-support ito ng mga front line para disseminate ang information. For example, KMJS, sabi ko nga meron tayo segment producers, researchers, and may mga segment producers pa in different kinds of regions para makahagap ng mga trending. Ito ay magazine show. So, of course, these producers will create imaginative and creative ideas para ma-disseminate ito at mai-broadcast ito every Sunday. So that's the essence of, that's the responsibility of the producers. And then yung frontline, si Miss Jessica Soho, of course, si telling the stories of these, syempre mga voiceovers, and then some of them tinatalk niya personally. So they are interacting the frontline and the backline para maging maaganda ang isang show. So that's the producers, that's behind those na magaganda nating programs na napapakinggan at naririnig at napapanood sa telebisyon o sa social media. Okay? So makikita ninyo na napakarami nating source of information na makukuha. Hindi lang sa internet, 'di ba? Na-discuss na rin natin last week. Ngayon, mas nakikita natin ngayon ano ba yung levels of source pagkuha natin ng mga sources. Paano ba natin siya susuportahan? But at the same time, nalaman din natin yung codes and conventions, which is yung convergence ng media na hindi na lang dito locally na nakikita natin, but the same time in the whole world. Ngayon, yung mga regional news natin, nakikita na rin natin dito sa Metro Manila. And nakikita din natin sa YouTube. We see that this mga local news natin, mga regional news natin, it can be watched in the national, it can be watched international, 'di ba? Even yung mga OFW at even mga ibang tao sa ibang bansa napapanood po yung balita na. Even yung mga balita sa ibang bansa napapanood natin like CNN, ABC, napakaraming balita, CNA, ano pa ba, yung mga Discovery Channel, yung mga kumbaga pang knowledge, 'di ba? Yung National Geographic, and History Channel. So we see it that na napakarami na nating source of information that we have to gather kumbaga napakadali na natin sa ngayon, especially millennials and Gen Zs, 'di ba? You are blessed with that and you're privileged with that because before kailangan tutukan talaga nila yung television para ma-jump down yung information. At the same time, pupunta pa sila ng mga archives and libraries for that. Tayo, nasa Google na lang in just one click. Or, ngayon, may voice command ba? Kung tinatamad ka mag-type, voice command mo na lang. So, ganun nakadali ngayon ng technology. It's because of disseminating this information. But at the same time, ngayon nga, nasa digital din naman tayo, yung mga taong nasa malayo, because of these platforms, nagiging mas malapit tayo. For example, tayo, andito ako sa Maynila, nandiyan kayo sa San Pedro, Laguna. So, malapit tayo with cause of technology, pero malayo tayo in location. So, we are getting connected with that. Okay? And the source of information na kuha natin is napakabilis na lang. Okay? So, this is our topic for today, which is media, information sources, and information languages. So, do you have questions, guys?